The war with Iran is sending out major economic shockwaves around the world. In particular, a historic disruption in oil shipments has already driven up prices at the pump here in the U.S. The average cost of a gallon of regular gasoline across the country jumped 47 cents in the past week. California is on the cusp of seeing average diesel prices reach $6 per gallon, according to data from Gas Buddy today. Initially, there were reports that the White House had been panicking behind closed doors, but they're now appearing to panic right out in the open, with officials acknowledging that these rapid price hikes are bad while trying to downplay it as a momentary issue. Take a listen.
With respect to what's happening with gas prices right now, this is a short-term disruption for the long-term gain of taking out the rogue Iranian terrorist regime.
This is a temporary issue. This is not about lack of oil in the world. This is about a transit issue.
We have a temporary period of elevated energy prices, but it will not be long. What you're seeing is emotional reactions and fear that this is a long-term war. This is not a long-term war.
Joining us now to discuss, Edward Fishman, director of the Center for Geoeconomic Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations. He is also the former Russia and Europe sanctions lead at the U.S. State Department and author of Choke Points, American Power in the Age of Economic Warfare. Eddie, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So you heard there that there are Trump surrogates, Trump allies, Trump himself out there saying not a big deal, this is temporary, don't get emotional, or that the markets are acting emotionally, and that this will be over soon. How reasonable, how viable is that explanation?
This is the biggest supply disruption to the oil market we've seen in history. I think we need to appreciate the scale of what's going on. A week ago, we were concerned that maybe we would lose 1.5 million barrels of Iranian oil. Now we're potentially losing 15 to 20 million barrels of oil going through the Strait of Hormuz every single day. We have maybe 1, 2, 3 tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz every day. It used to be over 90. Unless this stops imminently, we're not going to just have oil over $100 a barrel.
Which it is right now, by the way. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, this is a serious crisis in the global oil market that's going to have ramifications for consumers at home, for our geopolitical strategy. I mean, it's already a huge boon to Putin. This is money going directly into Russia's coffers. So this is a serious problem, and I think that calling this temporary really undersells what's happening right now.
Can you talk about that? Because now we're filling Putin's wallet with money because of these policies. Can you talk about just the self-defeating nature of the Trump administration strategy or lack thereof right now?
Yeah, you know, there were these two pieces of news that have come out in recent days that I think we don't oftentimes consider next to each other, but we should. One is that Russia is apparently providing targeting information to Iran to kill Americans in the Gulf. So that's one. Two, the U.S. is now easing sanctions on Russia to try to deal with this supply crisis of our own making. So I want to be clear here. This is not just a problem with respect to Iran or oil markets. We are actively helping Putin, right? We're undermining all of this work that's gone into trying to get a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. I mean, last year, we effectively torched the U.S.-India bilateral relationship, imposing 50% tariffs on India, secondary sanctions to try to prevent them from buying Russian oil. And now we're telling them, please buy Russian oil so that we can bring prices down. So this is a geoeconomic crisis of the first order.
I would also add another layer of irony and sort of shamefulness is that we are now apparently consulting with the Ukrainians for how to deal with Iranian drones. Right? We are asking them for military advice while filling Putin's war chest.
That's exactly right. And look, I actually think this is an opportunity for Ukraine because Trump has clearly thought that, the Ukrainians are,
they're just taken from us. They're
exactly.
They have nothing to offer us.
Right. And now all of a sudden, to keep our own troops safe in military bases in the Gulf, we need their help to shoot down these drones. So, I mean, I'm with you, Catherine. And I think that one thing I'm looking out for is, Dubai and the UAE more broadly has helped Russia evade sanctions. A lot of the oil traders who used to trade Russian oil in Switzerland and Russia have moved to Dubai. I mean, apparently, you go to Dubai now, you hear Russian on the street almost as much as you hear Arabic. Are the Emiratis going to continue to allow this when the Russians are helping the Iranians target facilities in the UAE, and at the same time, the Ukrainians are providing them with absolutely mission-critical resources? And I think that's going to, come to bear in the days ahead.
When you look at different administration officials coming out on the Sunday shows or Fox trying to help make sense of everything that's happening, or at least provide some sort of explanation, I'm curious if you think anyone at all had any game plan for this. I ask because the president in the State of the Union, and I know that seems like it was 10 million years ago now, I mean, gas prices have been like part of his whole affordability argument thing. Like, we're doing well on that front. These are my plans. When he trotted out in Georgia, he said very similar things. It's one of the first things he brings up anytime he feels that he's under attack when it comes to sort of the broader picture of the last year of his leadership in the country. And so then all of this happens, very predictable results. Do you get the sense anyone had a plan B or a supplementation option or a lever they were ready to pull?
So the short answer is no. There's no plan. But I think even more to the point, I think they came into this with an analytical error. They were overconfident that America's dominance of energy. Now we are the world's biggest exporter of oil and natural gas. So, it's a different scenario today than it was 10 years ago. That sort of insulated us from any price spike. I mean, to be fair, the attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities last year, the Venezuela, the Maduro raid, none of that really impacted oil prices at all. And that was in some ways astounding. What I think they didn't bargain for was that the Iranians wouldn't just roll over, that taking out Ayatollah Khamenei was not the same thing as regime change, and that the consequence could be the closure of the Strait of Hormuz for weeks. I mean, even oil market analysts, a week ago, if you told them that the Strait of Hormuz was going to be closed for several weeks, they would have said, yeah, right, that's never going to happen. This is going to be a quick operation. But I think what the Iranians have shown is that their regime has been quite resilient, right? The regime is not just the supreme leader or even the next 10 or 20 guys who the Israelis have taken out. It goes much deeper than that.
But Eamon, help me out here, because I feel like we have had friends of yours, experts on the show, who have been warning that exact thing for quite a long time. None of them had a phone line to the president to warn him of how this would all go.
I don't know if they've warned him and he ignored it. I don't know if it never made its way to his desk in the first place. But I think anyone who has spent any time studying the region, and officials that I've spoken to all across the region, have told us that the regime in Iran is a regime that is multifaceted, 47 years deep, meaning like they have built institutional level and institutional capacity at every level of society, meaning like police stations, judges, clerks, bureaucracy, religious clerics, judiciary, army, military. So as you were saying, the ability to decapitate one layer of that leadership does not erode and destroy the entire structure. Now, it may disrupt the command and control, which is what it did last year in July in the 12-day war, but they showed that they have the ability to replenish. And if any other of these groups in the region that drew support from Iran, like Hamas or Hezbollah, are any lessons, it is that these groups that are ideologically motivated, if the ideology persists and you're just killing the people and not offering an alternative to that ideology, the ideology just replenishes itself. And we're seeing that with the hardliners, the new supreme leader that was just elected today. I got to ask you really quickly before we go, what happens if barrel becomes $150? I mean, I know you mentioned a cascading effect on our society, but what starts to happen when you get to $130, $150 a barrel?
Sure. So the most obvious consequences are prices at the pump. And we've already seen gasoline prices in the U.S. in just the last week go from about $3 to $3.45 the last time I checked. So they're going up. But it's not just gasoline prices. It's airline tickets. It is shipping costs, really, for anything you're ordering. It's all manner of manufacturing that uses oil as a feedstock. It's food prices that are correlated with energy, because you think about farmers, it's a very energy-intensive industry.
Well, it's also fertilizer also goes through the strait.
Exactly. So this could have significant ramifications for the U.S. economy. I think the question is, with tariffs, we've come up with this acronym TACO, right? Trump always chickens out. Is Trump going to chicken out in this context if it means that he has to walk away from Iran with his tail between his legs because now it's just he's turned it over from one supreme leader to his son? I mean, so I do think there's a real risk here that Trump does not really have a great option. Stopping the war makes him feel like a loser, but continuing the war is devastating for the U.S. economy and, frankly, for the entire global economy.
Wow.
Edward Fishman, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Great to have your expertise at the table.